The Great Exile. The massive crystalline halls of the Galactic Tribunal on Arcturus Prime hummed with tension as Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the towering entrance. Her dark blue diplomatic uniform stood out against the flowing robes and exotic forms of hundreds of alien dignitaries. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, with walls that seemed to shift between transparency and opacity, allowing glimpses of the ringed planet below. Sarah had represented humanity in dozens of negotiations over the past 5 years. She had helped broker peace between warring species, established trade routes that benefited everyone, and worked tirelessly to prove that humans deserved their place among the stars. Today felt different. Today, the very air seemed to vibrate with hostility. At the center of the chamber sat the High Arbiters, 7 beings from the most ancient civilizations in the galaxy. Their leader, Archon Vexthai, was a towering figure, whose crystalline body pulsed with inner light. To his right sat Matriarch Silvera, an elegant being whose silver skin reflected the chamber's shifting colors. The others were equally imposing, representing thousands of years of galactic civilization. Ambassador Chen of the Human Federation. Archon Vexthai's voice resonated through the chamber without him moving what might have been a mouth. You stand before this tribunal to answer charges brought against your species. Sarah stepped forward, her chin raised with quiet dignity. I am here to defend humanity against whatever accusations have been made. We have followed all galactic laws and treaties. A holographic display materialized above the chamber, showing images of human colonies. Across dozens of star systems, ships moved between worlds carrying trade goods and settlers. Cities rose from empty planets, transforming barren landscapes into thriving communities. Your species has existed in galactic space for merely 50 standard years. Matriarch Silvera spoke, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Yet you have established colonies on 47 worlds, created trade networks spanning 12 sectors, and influenced the cultures of 36 different species. Sarah felt a surge of pride rather than shame. Yes, we have worked hard to build relationships and contribute to galactic civilization. Is progress now considered a crime? Counselor Kethmar, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color with his emotions, leaned forward. Progress? You call the disruption of traditions that have existed for millennia progress? Your species spreads ideas of individual freedom, democracy, and self-determination wherever you go. You contaminate stable societies with dangerous concepts. The hologram changed to show protests on various alien worlds. Beings of different species held signs written in human languages, demanding rights and freedoms their governments had never provided. On one world, an entire population had overthrown their hereditary rulers after human traders shared stories of Earth's democratic traditions. We share knowledge and ideas, Sarah replied firmly. We don't force anyone to accept them. If beings choose to embrace freedom, that is their right. Archon Vexthai's crystalline form pulsed brighter. Your species also expands too rapidly. In 50 years you have gone from a single world to controlling 47 star systems. This rate of growth is unprecedented and threatens the balance of power that has maintained galactic peace for 10,000 years. Sarah looked around the chamber, seeing hostility in every alien face. She realized this was not a trial, but a predetermined judgment. The elder species had already decided humanity's fate. Furthermore, continued another arbiter, your military technology advances at an alarming rate. Your ships now rival those of civilizations that have had centuries to develop their designs. Your weapons employ principles that our scientists struggle to understand. You represent a clear and present danger to established order. The images shifted to show human warships, sleek and powerful, protecting trade convoys from pirates. They showed human soldiers working alongside alien peacekeepers to stop conflicts. Every image was presented as evidence of aggression rather than cooperation. Sarah felt her diplomatic composure beginning to crack. Everything we have done has been in service of peace and prosperity for all species. We have never started a war, never conquered unwilling populations, never forced our beliefs on others. How can you call us dangerous when we have saved more lives than we have taken? Your intentions may seem noble, Archon Vexthai replied, but your impact is undeniable. Wherever humans go, change follows. Ancient governments fall, traditional ways of life disappear, and chaos replaces order. The Galactic Council has deliberated for 3 standard months. We have reached a unanimous decision. The chamber fell silent except for the quiet hum of the life support systems. Sarah felt her heart pounding as she waited for the words that would determine humanity's future. The human species is hereby declared incompatible with galactic civilization, the Archon announced. You have 100 standard days to withdraw all human presence from Council space. After that time, any human found outside your original star system will be considered a hostile invader and dealt with accordingly. Sarah stepped backward as if struck. You're exiling us? Sending us back to Earth and forbidding us from ever leaving? A containment barrier will be erected around your sol system, Matriarch Silvera explained with what might have been sympathy. This barrier will prevent any human from leaving and any outside influence from entering. Your species will have time to mature and learn restraint. Perhaps in a few centuries you will be ready to rejoin civilized space. This is wrong, Sarah said, her voice shaking with emotion. We have friends out there, species that depend on our trade, our protection, our friendship. You're punishing them as much as us. The decision is final, Archon Vexthai declared. The tribunal is dissolved. The massive doors began to open with a deep rumble. Sarah stood alone in the center of the chamber as alien dignitaries filed out, many avoiding her gaze. Some looked sad, others satisfied, but none spoke to offer comfort or support. Captain James Mitchell waited for her outside the chamber. His weathered face showed the strain of watching the proceedings through the observation windows. As Sarah's military escort and old friend, he had seen her through many difficult negotiations, but nothing like this. How bad? He asked quietly, as they walked toward their ship. Complete exile, Sarah replied, her voice hollow. 100 days to evacuate every human from galactic space, then a permanent barrier around our entire star system. James cursed under his breath. What about our colonies? Our people who've made lives out here? Everyone comes home, Sarah said, whether they want to or not. The journey back to Earth took 12 days through hyperspace. During that time, Sarah sent encrypted messages to every human colony, every trading post, every diplomatic mission, scattered across the galaxy. The response was immediate and unified. Disbelief, then anger, then determination. On Earth, President Maria Santos called an emergency session of the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation, every colony, every major corporation gathered in Geneva to hear Sarah's report. The chamber was packed with humanity's most powerful and influential leaders. They fear us, Sarah concluded, after explaining the tribunal's decision. They fear our growth, our ideas, our potential. They would rather cage us than compete with us. President Santos stood at the podium, her silver hair catching the lights as she addressed the assembly. The Galactic Council has made a grave mistake. They think isolation will weaken us, make us dependent on their mercy. They don't understand humanity at all. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Sarah watched as Earth's leaders transformed their shock into resolve. These were the descendants of explorers who had crossed oceans and continents, who had reached for the stars despite every obstacle. We will comply with their demand, the president continued. We will bring our people home. We will accept their barrier, but we will not accept defeat. The next 100 days were a whirlwind of activity. Ships arrived at Earth from every corner of human space, carrying colonists, soldiers, diplomats, and traders. Entire cities were evacuated from distant worlds. Research stations were dismantled and their equipment brought home. It was the largest migration in human history. But something else was happening in the secret laboratories and military facilities, scattered across the Sol system. Scientists and engineers who had spent decades studying alien technology began new projects. Military leaders who had learned from conflicts across the galaxy started training programs unlike anything ever seen. Dr. Elena Vasquez led a team of researchers in a hidden facility on Europa. They had been studying captured alien weapons and ships for years, learning the principles behind technologies that were supposedly beyond human understanding. Now, they had a new mission: make humanity's technology not just equal to the aliens, but superior. General Robert Hayes commanded the Sol Defense Force, but his real job was preparing for the day humanity would return to the galaxy. He recruited the best soldiers from every human world, men and women who had fought alongside alien allies and against alien enemies. They would form the core of something the galaxy had never seen, a truly human military force. On the 99th day of the evacuation, the last human transport ship passed through the orbital defenses of Mars. Behind it, space began to shimmer as the Galactic Council activated their containment barrier. A sphere of energy surrounded the entire Sol system, invisible from the inside but impenetrable from either direction. Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the barrier form. The stars looked the same, but she knew that humanity was now alone in a way they had never been before. Behind her, President Santos joined her at the window. "They think they've caged us," the president said quietly. "They have no idea what they've actually done." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked. President Santos smiled, but it was not an expression of joy. It was the smile of a predator preparing to hunt. "They've given us time to prepare. They've given us motivation. They've given us a common enemy. In their arrogance, they've created exactly what they feared most, which is a united humanity with nothing left to lose and everything to prove." Over the following months, as the barrier held firm around the Sol system, humanity began the greatest transformation in their history. Every resource, every brilliant mind, every ounce of determination was focused on a single goal: preparing for the day they would return to the galaxy. The aliens thought they had contained a dangerous species. They had no idea they had created something far worse. They had given humanity the time and motivation to become everything their fears had imagined and more. 100 years seemed like a long time to wait. But for a species that had crossed impossible oceans and reached for impossible stars, it would pass in the blink of an eye. And when it was over, the galaxy would learn the true meaning of the word dangerous. The countdown to humanity's return had begun. The Empire Strikes Back Admiral Marcus Rivera stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Defiance, watching the barrier that had contained humanity for exactly 100 years begin to flicker and fade. At 55 years old, Marcus had been born into the exile, raised on stories of the galaxy beyond, and trained his entire life for this moment. Around him, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency, their faces showing the same mixture of anticipation and determination that filled every human heart across the Sol system. "Barrier degradation at 90%, Admiral," reported Commander Lisa Park from the sensor station. "The Galactic Council's containment field is failing right on schedule." Marcus nodded, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he studied the tactical displays surrounding him. The past century had transformed humanity in ways their former alien neighbors could never have imagined. What had begun as punishment had become the greatest gift the galaxy could have given them. "Signal the fleet," Marcus ordered. "All ships to ready positions. Today, we return to the stars." Behind the Defiance, space filled with vessels that defied every convention of galactic ship design. The human fleet stretched for thousands of kilometers in every direction, but most of it remained invisible to conventional sensors. Stealth technology perfected over decades of isolation allowed entire battle groups to move unseen. These were not the crude exploration ships the aliens remembered from a century ago. Dr. Sarah Kim, now elderly but still sharp-minded, had spent her entire career advancing human technology beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Her breakthrough in quantum manipulation had led to engines that could bend space-time itself. Her weapons could tear holes in reality. Her shields drew power from parallel dimensions. "Fleet Admiral Chen reports all task forces ready," announced Communications Officer David Walsh. The irony was not lost on Marcus that Admiral Chen was the great-granddaughter of the ambassador who had witnessed humanity's exile. Sarah Chen's descendant would now lead humanity's return. Marcus activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice carried to over 10,000 ships and 30 million personnel scattered throughout human space. 100 years ago, the Galactic Council called us too dangerous for civilized space. They were wrong about one thing. We weren't dangerous then. We are now. The barrier finally collapsed completely, and for the first time in a century, the Sol system was open to the galaxy. Marcus felt a moment of profound significance as humanity crossed the threshold back into galactic space. But they were not returning as supplicants or refugees. They were returning as conquerors. "Sir, we're receiving multiple transmissions from nearby systems," reported Officer Walsh. "It appears word of the barrier's collapse has already spread." "Put the first one on screen," Marcus ordered. The main display showed the face of Regent Kolvar, a reptilian being with distinctive blue scales and piercing yellow eyes. Marcus recognized him from the intelligence files as the current leader of the Zeltharian Commonwealth, one of the species that had once been friendly with humanity. "Admiral Rivera," Kolvar began, "I am transmitting from the Zeltharian capital. Word has reached us that the human containment has ended. I must speak with you urgently about the current state of galactic affairs." Marcus exchanged glances with his senior staff. Intelligence reports suggested that much had changed during humanity's absence, but they needed current information before beginning their campaign. "Open a channel, Regent Kolvar. This is Admiral Rivera of the Terran Federation." The alien's eyes widened slightly at the title. "Terran Federation, you have reorganized since your exile?" "You could say that. What can you tell me about current galactic conditions?" Kolvar's expression grew grave. "Admiral, the galaxy is in chaos. The Galactic Council has fractured into competing factions. 3 major wars are currently raging between former allies. Piracy and raiding are epidemic. Many species live in fear while others have withdrawn entirely from galactic politics." Marcus absorbed this information with growing satisfaction. A divided galaxy would be much easier to conquer than the unified front that had exiled humanity. What triggered this collapse? The loss of human trade and diplomatic influence created economic instability, Kolvar explained. Without human mediators, old disputes escalated into open warfare. Without human protection, weaker species became victims of stronger ones. The Council's authority crumbled as member species lost faith in their ability to maintain order. "Fascinating," Marcus said. "And what is the current military situation?" The 3 largest remaining factions each control roughly 20% of former Council space. The rest is either independent, contested, or controlled by criminal organizations. Total fleet strength across all factions is perhaps 60% of what the Council once commanded. Marcus smiled. During humanity's exile, they had built a fleet larger than what the entire galaxy now possessed. Dr. Kim's manufacturing techniques had allowed the construction of ships at a rate previously thought impossible. Automated factories in the asteroid belt had worked continuously for decades, producing vessels and weapons while humanity's population grew to over 50 billion souls. Regent Kolvar, the Terran Federation is prepared to restore order to the galaxy. Are the Zeltharians interested in discussing terms of alliance? The alien's relief was visible even across the communication link. "Admiral, the Zeltharian Commonwealth formally requests the protection and friendship of the Terran Federation. We remember the humans as just and honorable allies." "Very good. Prepare to receive a diplomatic mission within 72 hours. Admiral Rivera out." As the communication ended, Marcus turned to his staff. "Deploy the 3rd Fleet to Zeltharian space immediately. They're to provide security and begin establishing our first forward base outside Sol." "Yes, sir," acknowledged Fleet Captain Morrison. "What about the other factions?" "We'll deal with them in order of priority. First, we secure our allies. Then we demonstrate our strength to potential enemies. Finally, we offer terms to the survivors." The next several weeks unfolded exactly as Marcus had planned. Human fleets appeared throughout the galaxy, moving faster than any ships the aliens remembered. They arrived at besieged worlds and devastated systems, bringing order and protection to species that had suffered under decades of chaos. The response was overwhelming. Planet after planet, species after species, requested human protection. The Antarian Syndicate, the Corvan Republic, the United Thraxian Worlds, all former allies of humanity, welcomed their return with celebration and relief. Even species that had never dealt with humans before sought out their protection from pirates and raiders. But not everyone welcomed humanity's return. The three major factions that had emerged from the Council's collapse viewed the humans as a threat to their power. The first to act was the hegemony of Vorth, led by the same families that had voted for humanity's exile a century earlier. Admiral Thexan commanded the largest remaining fleet in galactic space, over 4,000 ships, that represented the military might of 17 species. His vessels assembled near the Corinth Nebula, preparing to strike at human positions before they could consolidate their hold on the outer systems. Marcus received word of the gathering enemy fleet while reviewing intelligence reports in his ready room aboard the Defiance. Commander Park brought him the latest sensor data showing the hegemony's battle formation. Impressive numbers, Marcus admitted, studying the tactical display. 4,000 ships is more than we expected any single faction could muster. Sir, they outnumber our forces in this sector by almost 3 to 1, Park pointed out. Should we request reinforcements from Sol? Marcus chuckled softly. Commander, you're still thinking like our ancestors did. Numbers stopped mattering the day Dr. Kim perfected phase shift technology. The Battle of Corinth Nebula lasted exactly 14 minutes. Human ships entered phase space just as the engagement began, becoming invisible and intangible to enemy sensors and weapons. They struck from impossible angles, appearing inside enemy formations to deliver devastating attacks before vanishing again. Admiral Thexan watched his magnificent fleet dissolve into wreckage and escape pods in less than a quarter hour. Ships that had ruled the space lanes for decades were destroyed by enemies they couldn't see, couldn't track, and couldn't fight. When the human ships finally materialized in normal space, surrounding the handful of surviving hegemony vessels, Thexan realized he was facing technology beyond his comprehension. "This is Admiral Rivera," came the transmission to his flagship. "I'm prepared to accept your surrender." Thexan stared at his ruined fleet displayed on his screens. What are you?" "We're what you created when you gave us a century to prepare for war," Marcus replied. "Now do you surrender or do I finish what you started?" Within 6 months, the remaining factions had either surrendered or been crushed by human forces. The galaxy that had once considered humanity too dangerous to exist now begged for their protection and leadership. Species that had ruled star systems for millennia found themselves governed by beings they had dismissed as primitive upstarts. But Marcus and the other human leaders proved to be surprisingly benevolent conquerors. Rather than imposing harsh rule, they established the Terran Galactic Empire with protections for all species, fair laws, free trade, and democratic representation. The same ideals that had once been called dangerous and destabilizing became the foundation of the new galactic order. On the first anniversary of humanity's return, Marcus stood before the rebuilt Galactic Assembly on New Terra, the capital, world of the Terran Empire. Representatives from over 200 species filled the Great Hall, no longer segregated by faction or alliance but united under human leadership. 100 years ago, you exiled us because you feared what we might become, Marcus addressed the assembly. You were right to fear us, but wrong about why. You thought we were dangerous because we would conquer you. We were dangerous because we would free you. The applause that followed came from aliens who had known only war and chaos for decades. They had learned that humanity's true danger was not its weapons or technology, but its ideals, the same concepts of freedom, equality, and self-determination that had once threatened ancient dictatorships now offered hope to species across the galaxy. As Marcus looked out over the assembled representatives, he reflected on the irony of their situation. The Galactic Council had exiled humanity to prevent them from changing galactic civilization. Instead, they had given humanity the time and motivation to rebuild it entirely. The exile was over. The Empire had begun, and for the first time in galactic history, Every species had a voice in their own destiny under the protection of the most dangerous force the universe had ever known. A united humanity with nothing left to prove and everything to give. The galaxy had tried to cage humanity and learned too late that some species become most dangerous when cornered. Now they ruled not through fear, but through the revolutionary idea that all beings deserved freedom, dignity, and hope. Stars themselves seemed brighter under human rule.